What is up, guys? It is your boy Royal Mech. Good to see you all today. Thank you for tuning in. Today we have my top 10 Greymon related cards. Um, this list is my list. You may feel differently on what your top 10 are. Comment them in the comment them down below. I will greatly look at them. We can even have a conversation on them. But that's what it's going to come to. These are my 10. Um, and let's just get over to it. Alright, so starting off for my 10, I'm going to go off first with the Victory Greymon. This boy right here. So, Victory Greymon has the ability on Digivolution, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 6k DP or less. And then for every Digimon your opponent has in play, you can add 2k to the maximum DT based deletion effect it can delete. So, in layman's terms, deletes for 6 plus 2k for every Digimon, meaning you pretty much can hit 5s and down. Easy, right? But then it has the other effect for all turns, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted. If you have a tamer in play, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with the highest DP. Now, here's why this is in my number 10 slot. This to me holds one of those things that Greymon decks kind of needed and didn't need at the same time. It just happened. It came out after the fact. Had this come before the new War Greymon, this definitely would be played more, I think, for other people. For me, I am actually testing playing with it because of how defensive and controlling this card is. It is technically a 2-card deletion every turn. With the new tie, this is as a blocker just says, hey, did you want to swing with that weak boy? Cool. I can either let it go and die, or I can block it, kill it, and then kill your strong boy with it. But that's neither here nor there. I do like it. Stat line is really good. 12k DP, 12 cost, meaning Hades Force. If you have Hades Force active, this gets to do what it wants to do. It still can hit of about everything. Only like slight issue is the 4 cost, especially being it's the vaccine side of the line, not the virus side, like with all the Black Warp support. But with that being said, I still like it. At number 10, neither here nor there. It's not bad. There's multiple other cards out there that could go here, but I like it here. I do see it as one of those big hitter Greymon cards that potentially could have done so much more had it come out earlier. Had this been the first Victory Gray we ever got, this boy would have been played in Greymon for a good minute. But it's not. However, coming future sets, this card I definitely see is getting more play with how decks are going back to a board-wide effect instead of a central tower effect. Also, look at this art. This art is just beautiful. It's the same art who made the alt art for the BT12 War Gray. So this card's just beautiful. But on to number 9. And number 9 is going to be the good old boy, Decker Gray. Decker Greymon has Armor Purge. He has the on-play and Digivolution effect of you're able to place one Digimon card or Blue Flare from his trait from your hand or from one of your underneath the tamer to the bottom of this card's evolution source. And if Deckermon's if Deckermon is in the inheritable, stun opponent's Digimon. Then has the Digicross requirement of a Metal Gray, the Blue Flare Metal Gray, and Decker Greymon, but also can use any Metal Gray in general, separate, but you preferably use the Metal Gray from Blue Flare. Honestly, this card is also really good. I do like this card. I do feel In my opinion, it is going to be a problem card later, especially if Blue Flare never gets touched, because along with the Blue Flare actual set their set order, not a set order, sorry, their option card, that memory boost, their Blue Flare memory boost. This is the only other card that I honestly see needing to be touched because its stun is too free and it's really it's not even really a cost. A lot of people will see will, especially if you're playing the more consistent variant for Blue Flare, this just gets Digivolved on top of itself for with Armor Purge. You never really miss anything. So it's like, okay, I Digivolved over Metal Gray into Decker Greymon, and then a Decker Gray on top of a Decker Gray, and you can just keep doing that, and it just gets annoying. Then you don't have to add Decker Dramon underneath. I would feel that should be like that if it had said you have to add Decker underneath, I would be perfectly fine with this card. But it doesn't say you have to add, it just keeps counting the one that's already in there. And so, with that being the case, I honestly feel it's slightly a little too strong because there's no way around this guy doing his effect, and he's always going to be active to do it. But outside of that, it's still a great card. I have no problems with it. Blue Flare needs something like this for control, to help with their control strategy. But if they keep getting more support, some of their older stuff definitely will need to get looked at because all of it is incredibly strong and a lot of it's starting to slowly get to the point of no free cost without any outside assistance. Well, on to my 8, and this is one of my first ones. I know people are going to be looking at me like, why is this 8th in my list? And that is Yuya. Now, for those of you who don't know, Yuya is a memory tamer, meaning at the start of your turn, if your memory is 2 or less, move it up to 3. He has the ability during my turn. If I Digivolve into a Greymon, I can suspend this and have that Greymon gain 2 KDP. However, if I Digivolved into the same level, it also gains protection from options. Now, someone will look at me and say, people look at me and say, Romek, why did you do that? That's not really a good thing to do. I would say this, the card in itself, great card. Great card. However, it's starting to get phased out, right? You have Greymon in general has way more protections to where this is only targeting like 3 abilities. Put something into your security. It's only really 2. Put something back into your security and getting rid of sources. Those 2 are like the only 2 this actually counters. But those 2 things aren't that big of a deal for Wargrave. Because like only a very small handful of decks actually do that. Right? And then DP, you could say, oh, it protects against DP reduction. You're right, it does. However, Greymon has been getting more ways to generate a higher DP base for the continual turn. You got the new Wargrave. He gives himself 3k on Digivolve. You got the the original Metal Gray X. It gives 3k. The new Tai gives an additional 1k. The new Agumon and Greymon from the BT12 line, they produce at least 1k per. So the archetype is already gained units that gain high levels of power to where even DP reducing effects aren't as detrimental as they used to be. And part of that is why the reason I believe, for me, this is in my number 8 slot. Because it's still good, but it's slowly fading. Now, guys, all the cards in here are great. In this list, all the cards here are great. None of them are trash. But in relation, this card is slowly fading out. You don't need it as much. So, that is why I feel the way I do about this card. Now, I won't say there isn't a chance for it to come back into prominence, to be prominent, especially if we get decks that are more heavily on option cards. This could come back, but right now it's slowly fizzling. Most decks now barely play this, if unless you're playing more of a Black War Greymon in, and if you're not, you're barely playing it because you're playing tie. You're playing both versions of the good ties. So, yeah. Now on to number 7. Another card is probably gonna get me some. Somebody say, "Oh, you don't know what you're doing." I play Greymon a lot. Trust me. This is coming from a Greymon player. Next one up, I am saying, is the Black War Greymon X. This card, amazing card. I love this card. This card wins games. It's part of the reason I won my store champs recently. However, the fact of the matter is, guys, this card right here, it's also fizzing out. And here's what I mean by that. Yes, it redirects. Yes, it has the ability to redirect. It has reboot, and it has the ability to destroy the lowest level Digimon on the board. These are all great abilities. However, excuse me, that is slowly getting phased out for all decks, because decks now are getting to a point where they have more than 2 units on board, and this redirect's not going to mean nothing soon, because unless you were successful making your chain for Greymon, which you should, but unless you fully make enough protection chains, this is dying faster than any other Greymon you've ever seen. You want to get to this, cool, but its effects are lackluster, especially now. Especially when the only deck that can really hammer this down is Blue Flare. And even Blue Flare is slightly having issues. Because if you're playing this deck, if you're playing this card in your deck, you're playing Yuya. So then Blue Flare comes completely, like, there's nothing Blue Flare can do to you. And that's part of the reason why I put it lower, and it's closer. It's with Yuya, down near the bottom end of my list. Because you're not really doing anything great with it, and it's slowly just getting replaced. And as long as it's getting replaced by cards with better effects and more long-term pressure, it's just going to be there. Heck, the BT12 War Gray is still the card you play more of in the Black War variant than you do this guy himself. And so, yeah, that's what's coming down. Now we go to my number 6 slot, and that is the Blue Flare's Metal Greymon. Now, Blue Flare's Metal Gray is really good. It has its own internal rush. It has, excuse me. Internally it has rush, thus meaning better outcome. It can hit hard when it's played. It stuns somebody who has less sources. So it's definitely going to put that pressure up there. And it's literally the best card for Blue Flare. If you don't have this card at Blue Flare, you're kind of stuck. And heck, his freeze targets 3 Digimon at one time. So there's not really anything bad about this card at all. But once again, it's situational. And depending on certain matchups, you barely get this. And when people are playing against Blue Flare, they know what to handle. They know what to throw out. They will know what not to do. But this card is still an amazing card. 10 out of 10. Would recommend if you're playing Blue Flare. This is a mandatory 4 of. I will say if this card were to ever get hit in Blue Flare, the deck slowly is dying, because this is its best unit and its main face of the deck. On to the top 5. Now we're getting all my favorite boys. All the good boys that I know I play a lot. So, first up, we got the Greymon X. Any questions? Do we need to go over this really? Because I think this Greymon X sort of speaks for itself. Cost reduction for Metal Greymon Evos by 1, so on average 1 to 2. Depending on color, this with the new BT12 Metal Gray literally is a 1-card Evo, and go from rookie to champ in literally 3 memory. and it's nuts. And then just having the protection, the easy requirement for protection. However, that is still situational because you can't just spam 4x antibodies in your deck like it's nobody's business. And you can't tuck more than 1x antibody under a Digimon at a time. So it's not like this is an infinite protection. But still great. Great play cost, great everything. Honestly, there's nothing more you can say about this card. This card is just fire, and I understand why it got banned, got hit to 1. But as decks are going, if the game goes back to being faster, this should be released. If the game keeps getting faster, this should be released to match up to speed. If not, if it doesn't get released, oh well, Greymon, we will figure it out. But I honestly feel it should be released at some point just to help keep speed up. Right? On to the number 4. Next, I will talk about the best boy. Metal Greymon. This is the one we got from BT12. This is, if not, the best Metal Greymon this deck has the tribal deck for red has ever gotten. This fixes one of the biggest issues I've personally had with the EX1 Metal Gray, because EX1 Metal Gray does the exact same thing in Inheritable. It gave the Greymon deck a way of piercing. However, those required you to either be Dragonkin or Machine. This only requires you to have the name Greymon or Omnimon in the name, thus already making this a better situation. Then on top of that, it has Rush, which means this gets to come out and press, and it can play Tamers for free. Red and black Tamers can get played for free. This card has become staple. This is just the straight staple for the deck. I don't even think anybody's going to ever remove it. I don't think they can make any Metal Greymon better than this to replace him at all. And people are like, well, what about the Ace in BT14? What Ace? This is better than that. And this just fixes this literally fixes problems. This starts your turns. This literally starts your whole game. Once this is on board, if this doesn't get removed and you're able to start pressuring, it's good. And then the on-play Tamers doesn't just have to be you. As long as something's attack is redirected, and this is for all turns, you get to play Tamers. It's wonderful. It's spicy. It's good. It's delectable. And I will definitely keep playing this at 4. And I don't think it's ever going to leave. Now, on to the next big boy. After this is all the Digimon. Because then you can see right here. These are the big 3 right here. This takes the number 3 slot. This takes the number 3 slot right here. The BT12 War Greymon. This is something Greymon needed. They needed a way to pressure your board and make you second guess what your behavior and actions were. Greymon, in my opinion, was too straightforward before this card, especially on the virus end. It was literally you just go into War X, that's it, yada yada. This now goes no, you go into this, you swing. Now they're wondering, are you going to raid away something first? If not, cool. If so, awesome. On top of the fact, it has an unsuspend, so you can keep the pressure on if it redirects. 2, that is on both players' turn. So in tandem with the new tie, it's literally the Black War Greymon. It's literally Black War Greymon. But it's the vaccine side of the line gets their version. However, it's more sustainable and you guarantee the block, right? So you can always block with this one. It has also still the same thing. Good stat lines, just like everybody else. No problems here. I really can't go into deep much more about this card because it's just amazing without question. On to the second slot. I have put in Greymon support is the Tai Kamiya. The BT12 Tai Kamiya. And here's why I put this one here. It fixes every problem the deck had. every problem. You gain memory from digivolving into a Greymon, so that fixes one of the issues. Second, on play and at start of main phase, this turns any one of your Agumon or Greymon into a blocker. That was one of the biggest problems this deck had. Because without blockers, this deck died. And now we have a way to make every card in our deck a blocker. And not just that. This, with the BT12 Wargrave, makes you the perfect blocker. Hands down. Perfect blocker. All you gotta do, hard play, you play this, you target the Metal Gray, if that's how your turn's going. Play this, target the Metal Gray does what it's going to do. Then you digivolve this at end of turn, it stands up, okay, good. You have a blocker that's strong enough to take down anything most decks can deal with, and then it disappears. And that is honestly the best thing in the world to see. That you're able to block properly now. Black War now having blockers helps open themselves to having an out to rush. Because one of the things Greymon had a problem with is it couldn't stop rushing. And now we have the perfect answer. We can just block you. And mixed with other cards in the deck, like mixed with other cards directly in the deck itself, being the BT12 Wargrey, the Black Wargrey X, heck, even the Victory Gray. These three cards also just support that card all too well. And this card alone supplements them all to do defensive, who have a defensive ability. Their defensive plays just go off. And it's just wonderful. This is like the linchpin for Greymon. This card is needed in every Greymon deck. There's not going to be a time you're not playing this. You're playing it at 2 to 3. 3 to 4, actually. And if you're not playing it, you're doing something wrong. However, once we get BT14, there's going to be a red variant that is more about the rush than it is the blocking. So you're like 50-50 which one you want to run. Honestly, you can run both of them in the deck, and you just have 3-drop tamers instead of 4 drops. And then you just go on about your business, right? And then last but not least, the biggest boy, the one that takes the crown as the best, in my opinion, Greymon support card ever existed, greatest card actually in the game, is Hades Force. For those of you who don't know what Hades Force is, this is literally a big red button. It has the ability, if an X antibody is on the board, reduce the cost by 5 to 5, right? Then on play, choose one of your Digimon with Greymon in the name, and you can delete up to that play cost between Digimon and Tamers, right? And then afterwards, you have the option to have your Digimon attack, right? So in the perfect world, what you're usually doing is you play this, get rid of your opponent's Tamers, and then swing on them to restrict them from having any plays really next turn. I do that a lot. It is probably the funnest thing I ever do. But that also part that they may attack afterwards, I use that a lot more than I see a lot of people actually think about when it comes to it. This card literally gives Greymon blitz. It gives the Greymon deck a way of blitzing, especially when there's no other options left in your hand to do things. Knowing that War Greymon is a 12, you have Black War that's a 13. Those two numbers can just wipe out almost anything. You can clear your entire opponent's board of their Tamers, and then keep pressing. And there's nothing they can do about it. And then you swing and win. I have won plenty of games where my opponent had a blocker, I had only one attacker, they had no security, but I had enough to put them at a low rate cost in regards to their their playability, and I had enough to actually kill off the Digi and a Tamer. So I killed their blocker, that's all their Digimon that's a blocker, killed off one Tamer, and then made myself happy to kill for game. The blitz ability chain with this is just gold, and I have no problem for it. This just does work, and it's gonna stay doing work. I'm just glad it's a double color card because it requires you to have 2 colors to put some restriction. And it's a 7 cost normally. So if you don't have X antibodies, it's not going anywhere. It's not being played. Now, between 1 to 2, honestly, you really only need 1. Some people say you only need 1. I go with the 2 route because 2 just helps make sure you can see it in one of 3 areas. You draw into it, you know it's in the deck, or it's in security. And it doesn't matter. And then the security effect destroys the highest play cost. So, it kills stuff. It's a wonderful killer. You enjoy it. And honestly that's it. That's why this is the best card on my list, my number 1. It's literally the best card. It opened up so much. It gives Greymon board control. Sometimes better board control than victory. And a lot of times, it's the best form of board control. Who needs blockers? We can just blow up the board. But it's a big old muffin button. If you know the reference, put it in the comments. So it's a muffin button. And that just makes it so you don't have to worry about anything after the fact. So I have no complaints. I'm glad this card exists. I just hope every other color gets a counterpart like this. So they have something to help deal with board controlling and tamers. But also, a lot of other colors also have really good options. Got really good options beforehand, so it goes 50-50. But that is the list, guys. These are my top 10. I enjoy them all. I know probably where I placed everybody. I know probably a lot of people don't feel Victory Gray should be on this list at all. I do. It is very usable. It's just I think people ignore it right now compared to everything else that's available, and it's just good. I feel it deserves the 9 slot. It deserves the 10 slot. And for me, it stays there. But like I said, this has been my top 10 list, guys. If you feel there's cards missing that I should have chose from, let me know. I will definitely comment what you guys feel. Heck, if you feel there's another archetype I should talk about 10 placement, in my opinion, go ahead, shoot. We'll do that as well. I do want to say once again, thank you guys. I want to say once again, like I always say, thank you guys for your support. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, awesome. Please remember, like, comment, subscribe, and if you really enjoyed it, go ahead, share it with your friends. We are on our way to that first 500 marker. We've already passed the 100 subscriber mark. Let's move on and try to push towards 200, then 3, then 4, then 5, and just keep it pressing. Once again, I have been Royal Mech. Thank you guys for viewing. I'll see you guys in the next video, and peace.